JAG tried to mix Top Gun with A Few Good Men. It gave viewers fighter jets, murder investigations, and courtroom cases. It ran for 10 seasons, reached the top 20, and was watched in more than 90 countries. But NBC cancelled it after one season. The Navy wouldn't help, and the schedule cost David James Elliott the Mask of Zorro. This is the crazy story behind JAG. In 1993, NBC cancelled Quantum Leap, and its creator, Donald P. Bellisario, had already moved his production deal from Universal to Paramount, where he had to come up with another series. Bellisario had already spent 4 years in the United States Marine Corps and found himself writing about 2 F-14 fighter jets flying over Bosnia with a female officer in the back of one of them. Bellisario used that as a starting point for a murder mystery about a female pilot killed on an aircraft carrier. Then he started looking into who would investigate that murder. NCIS agents handled the police work, but Bellisario discovered that lawyers from the JAG Corps could investigate cases, prosecute them, or defend the accused, so he built the show around the lawyers instead. The story would focus on Lieutenant Harmon Rabb, a Navy lawyer and former F-14 pilot, and his partner.
Lieutenant Commander Harmon Rabb Jr. suffered a crash while landing his Tomcat on a storm-tossed carrier at sea. Diagnosed with night blindness.
With the format sorted, Paramount took JAG to NBC and pitched it as Top Gun meets A Few Good Men. NBC loved the idea and ordered a 2-hour pilot. Now Bellisario had to find the right cast. Then Paramount chairman Kerry McCluggage pointed Bellisario towards Canadian actor David James Elliott. McCluggage knew him from The Untouchables, where he played federal agent Paul Robbins. Bellisario was looking for the same kind of lead that he found in Tom Selleck for Magnum P.I. or Scott Bakula for Quantum Leap. Elliott went through several auditions over a 3-month period, and later said he only read for Bellisario once, and about an hour later he got the role. Then Patrick Leporteur auditioned for a guest role in the pilot as Bud Roberts. Bellisario gave him the part, and while they were making the pilot, decided he wanted Bud in the weekly series. But Patrick had already committed to the comedy The Last Frontier, so he appeared in the pilot and in the episode Skeleton Crew. Now Harm's partner in the pilot was Caitlin Pike, played by Andrea Parker. Bellisario had written her role as someone who could stand up to Ham, but NBC didn't want Parker kept as a regular lead, so they replaced her with Tracy Needham as Lieutenant Junior Grade Meg Austin. So the main cast was sorted. Now the show needed its score. For that, they brought in Oscar-nominated composer Bruce Broughton, who wrote the music for the 2-hour pilot and the main title theme. He then recommended Stephen Bramson, known for the Tiny Toon Adventures, to continue for the weekly series. Also, Velton Ray Bunch, who had already written music for Bellisario's Magnum P.I. and Quantum Leap, scored 6 of the first season episodes. On the 23rd of September 95, JAG premiered on NBC, and the first reviews were kind of mixed. Variety thought it used too much Navy talk and borrowed a lot from Crimson Tide and Apollo 13. Entertainment Weekly said the stories were nothing new, but liked the way Elliott played Harm without overdoing it. It also liked the action because it stopped JAG from feeling like another courtroom show. On the other hand, the audience was tuning in. Around 11.5 million people watched the series each week. But the real problem was, most of the people watching were older than NBC wanted, so they tried to fix it by moving the show from Saturday to Wednesday nights. But that didn't help. By spring 96, the Suits had seen enough and cancelled the series. Elliott heard the news with about 4 days of filming left, but they carried on and made all 22 episodes. The network aired all of them except the Skeleton Crew. Meanwhile, Paramount took the series to CBS, who thought it would work with their older audience, and ordered 13 episodes for a new season. By the time Bellisario called Elliott with the news, CBS was already showing the program to new advertisers. Also, CBS boss Les Mooms let Bellisario shape the series more around its legal cases, the supporting cast, and their lives outside the office. That, though, didn't include Meg Alston. Bellisario called Tracy Needham a good actress and a lovely person. The problem was, though, Meg was younger than Harm and below him in rank, so she spent too much time saying yes and no sir. Bellisario said he wanted someone who could stand up to Harm, so he dropped Meg and went back to Catherine Bell. But this time, she wasn't playing Harm's ex, Diane. She was now Marine Major Sarah Mackenzie, Harm's new partner. The Last Frontier had also ended, so Patrick LeBouteur was finally free to join the series full-time as Bud Roberts, while Carrie Turner joined as Harriet Sims. The show returned on CBS on January 97, but there were already issues behind the scenes stemming from the first season.
Harm transferred to the Navy's Judge Advocate General Corps, which investigates, defends, and prosecutes the law of the sea.
The Navy wouldn't help the show due to the 1991 tailhook scandal, so the crew couldn't use Navy bases, sailors, or aircraft. Paramount did have plenty of old footage though. They took shots from Top Gun, The Final Countdown, and The Hunt for Red October, then built everything else themselves. The writers were also pulling stories from real events. In Season 1, they used the rescue of pilot Scott O'Grady after he was shot down in Bosnia. Then JAG's move to CBS created a different problem for Elliott. He had been cast as the villain in The Mask of Zorro and started fencing lessons for the role. Then CBS picked up more episodes of JAG, so he had to pull out. Then the Navy and Marine Corps changed their mind and started helping as long as they could read each script before deciding what the production could actually use. Now, they didn't mind one of their people being the villain as long as they were caught and they were punished. What they didn't want though is the Navy being the villain. Meanwhile, the rent at Paramount was still eating into money that could have been put on screen. So at the start of Season 3, they moved to Valencia Studios to save money. The move did its job, but it didn't make the hours any shorter. Elliott was still in nearly every scene, and some days ran close to 18 hours. Now, most of us aren't working that many hours a day, but we can still end up feeling completely drained. If you do, check out Optimum Day and Optimum Night by Oxford Natural. It's a supplement stack made to help with your energy and metabolism during the day while helping you relax and sleep better at night. I've been using these for the past few weeks now, and combined with my diet, I've lost a bit of weight, and that's without feeling drained and hungry all the time. So why don't you start your wellness journey with a huge 70% discount off your first order when you use the QR code on screen or code DREAL. Elliott could have done with some of that himself, because he still had plenty of episodes to film, so the writers kept pulling stories from real events. Then came 9/11, and the producers cut back on the jokes and held off Harm and Mac's romance because they thought the program needed to become more serious. 2 weeks after the attacks, the Season 7 opening pulled in the second biggest ratings the show had ever reached at that point. By the time the show reached its 10th season, it was still pulling in around 9.7 million viewers every week, but hardly anyone was between the ages of 18 and 34, and CBS had started wanting a younger audience. At the same time, David James Elliott's contract was also about to run out. Bellisario thought keeping him would cost too much, so he said he didn't offer him a new deal. Elliott's side, though, said they did make an offer to CBS to renew, but they never answered. Whatever really happened, that still would leave JAG without its lead if the show would get renewed, so Bellisario tried to keep it going with a younger cast. But CBS said no, and on April 4th, 2005, JAG was cancelled, and the final episode aired a few weeks later, ending the show with the famous coin toss. The series might have ended on TV, but its home media life started years earlier. Paramount initially released the 2-hour pilot on VHS in '98, but the regular seasons never got released until years later. Season 1 arrived in 2006 on DVD, and the others followed over the next 4 years, with a box set coming out in 2011. Now, for fans who want to add the series to their collection, I've added a link in the description below, and there should be a card popping up on screen to help you check it out. The show's biggest legacy began in April 2003, when the episodes Ice Queen and Meltdown introduced Gibbs, Dinozo, Abby, Ducky, and NCIS agent Vivian Blackadder. CBS ordered the spin-off series the following month, and NCIS premiered in September of that year. It went on to become one of the longest-running series in American television and spawned NCIS Los Angeles, New Orleans, Hawaii, Sydney, Origins, and Tony and Ziva. NCIS even had David James Elliott and Catherine Bell return as Harm and Mac. And yeah, they finally explained the coin toss. By then, Bell had completed 7 seasons of Army Wives and turned The Good Witch into a successful run of television films and its own 7-season series. Elliott, on the other hand, had appeared in Close to Home, Scoundrels, GCB, and Mad Men. But JAG had a much bigger impact than keeping its cast working. CBS later called it one of the programs that helped turn the network around in the late 90s. It also put things like PTSD, addiction, and the physical cost of war into a weekly network drama without treating military people as stereotypes. Elliott later said former service members would stop him and thank him for showing them as human beings. As for my own take on it, I used to watch this with my mum in Cyprus when it was on TV back in the 90s. I never followed the entire series, but from what I can remember, I enjoyed it. I hadn't seen any episodes until I went back to make this video. And yeah, I still enjoyed it. Now, back then, this wasn't something that I would go looking for. I would prefer to watch something like Walker Texas Ranger, Renegade, or something along them lines. But today, if I had some spare time, I would actually get into it. And we're not done yet. Next time, we take a look at another classic series. Until then, why don't you check out our previous episode on Square Pegs.
Always never quite right.
Thanks for watching, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.